Do you ever masturbate with a bunch of guys in the same room?
No.
I talk about that in my next show that's coming out sometime next year. And we did it to Titanic, and in it I name all the kids that were there's names, but I bleep them out.
You jerked off to Titanic? The scene where Kate Winslet's posing nude?
Yeah, just like five of us in the same room, just like underneath blankets. And yeah, it was funny because it was like, must have been 6th grade.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't remember the specifics of the conversation, but I think it was like, you know, after post Kyle Nowak, but I think it wasn't me, but it was like someone that was just like, oh my gosh, we should do this. And we're like, cool. So we all got blanks and put them all over ourselves. And then we all just did it. And then when each person would finish, would go downstairs and play Nintendo 64.
The windows were fogging up just like in the car windows in the movie.
Yeah, but it was like maybe
a hand presses against the glass.
Oh yeah.
God.
A beautiful an image that is yeah, but it was like one of those first experiences being like, I guess, yeah, we just found out this new activity.
Yeah. Wow. So let's get to the meat of this special 30-year-old virgin. So you did not have sex, so you were 30, obviously.
Yeah.
Were you 30 or were you older than 30?
I was 30.
You were 30. And was it a disaster?
I didn't.
Let me ask you this, because
Yeah.
you mentioned, like, you know, people of Christian upbringings doing like everything but. So like there's hand jobs, there's blowjobs, there's anal, anything but actual intercourse.
Yeah.
Had you done everything but, or was there?
Yeah.
You had. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So it wasn't this like completely overwhelming, like, I don't know what I'm doing or where I am. This is. You didn't feel like you were catapulted into a different stratosphere. It wasn't an out of body experience. The
thing that pushed me over the edge to be like, take stock of whatever weird rules I created, because that's what made me, basically, I went to go hook up with a girl when I was 29 or something. And I had just been engaged, broke off my engagement to this girl. And a few years later, I was like, met some girl and we were about to hook up. And she was like, do you have a condom? And then I explained to her, like, oh, I don't want to have sex, but do you want to do other stuff? And it was the first time that instead of it being like, this is weird, she was like, I want to get fucked by someone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give you a hand job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh yeah, there's like a girl involved here that doesn't just want to get fingered. And she was one of the first people that wasn't like, these are interesting, weird rules. Like, oh, you've never had sex? This is crazy. And I'd had that experience before, like in college and stuff. But it was her just being like, this is weird.
Yeah.
I think
time to get the job done.
Yeah.
She was a woman.
I think it was, she
was a woman who wanted to get fucked by a man.
Yes. And I've never talked about this because, but I think it was, she had large breasts. And I think I was like, I should use those to, you know.
Sure.
And she was like, and when I suggested that after not having sex, she was like, this is fucking weird. She's like, I'm not going to let you titty fuck me.
Yeah.
And I was like, taken back. She's like, I'm not trying to be mean, but like, you need to figure your shit out. And we were like, it was like that's
like an aperitif after you've had the main course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, that was when I was like, yeah, this is a weird situation. So then that it was a mishmash, and I hadn't had sex with my fiance.
Wow. So she was she at the same church as you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
you guys were on the same wavelength as far as like no premarital sex.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah, it was this weird mishmash of rules that like made sense to no one. Like, didn't work for me, didn't work for girls. And I was like, and I think I had made like a mental decision. I was like, I'm going to sleep with someone who's like meaningful to me. Like, I'm kind of done with this in my head. And then at some point I was just like 6 months after I made the mental decision, I just like went home with the girl that I met on the train.
Yeah. Which is amazing. That's like,
she was cute. It was great.
That's like a real sex type scenario. Like, how often does that fucking happen?
Yeah. It wasn't like right off the train, but I gave her my number. Then we went on a date. But
you
yeah,
just saw her on the train. Were you even talking to her? You just
didn't say a word to her. I could just tell she was looking at me.
And did you write your number down?
Yeah.
And just handed it to her?
Yes.
Didn't say a word, just handed her a piece of paper with your number and she called you?
She texted me, yeah.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
I know. I've thought about it before, and I've been like, I was like, man, buried in the show was like this moment where I had like major game.
Yeah, dude. God
like,
damn.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and then I remember we were having sex, didn't use protection, and I was just like, we were having sex, and I was just like completely... Speaking of like when we were talking about being in the moment in life, just not in the moment at all. I was just like, what? How did I get here? I'm finally having sex. Like, couldn't even feel anything. Didn't finish.
Yeah.
I think I had to fake. I didn't fake it, but I think I was like, oh, I can't, but I'm attracted to you or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I just like laid in bed after it was done. We went to bed. I was like, just lying there being like, well, that's what you were waiting for. So it ended up being like a weirdly like anti,
and you didn't tell her that you were a virgin. She had no idea. And she wasn't acting like you were doing anything wrong or like you weren't giving away any signals that this was your first time.
I don't think so. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know, but
right.
It was just like, now that I've like had more sex, I think it was just like kind of generic one night stand, not really.
I mean, you had sexual experiences, just not intercourse. Okay.
Yeah.
So whereas I was younger than you, I was 21, which I still thought was fucking ancient at the time.
Yeah.
It was like this dark cloud over my head, like you can't tell anyone you haven't had sex yet. Which now through my years of talking to other people, 21's not that. That's not that crazy. You know? But I had barely even kissed anybody. So like I brought this girl back to my apartment. I had no condoms. I was like, stay here. I'm going to run and get condoms. I was like, don't leave. I was like convinced she was going to leave. I was like, promise me you won't leave.
Please.
And I hopped in my car. I drove to I was living in D.C. at the time. I drove to a fucking CVS like 3 minutes away, bought condoms, came back, and then I was like, I've heard all these horror stories of dudes blowing their load like, 30 seconds in, first time.
So
and I was like,
so
I jerked off in the car real quick. So instead of lasting 7 seconds, I lasted 37 seconds.
That's funny.
And it was, it was very clear. And she knew I was a virgin. I knew that it couldn't be hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, as much as I wanted to be like, yeah, fuck all the time. I got crazy game. I was like, better to be upfront with this girl than if she still wants to have sex with you, then, well, you'll know she's a keeper.
Yeah.
Or at least you can kind of let your guard down and relax and not feel so self-conscious about it.
At that point, it would have been so intimate. Like, I was like, I can't let this girl know, like, this thing this thing that's like, she's like, on me? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why, I told her after, not after, a few weeks after. But yeah, it all in all was not a great first experience. Kind of like boring and like weird and not present, and then was really weird after, and it was kind of self-imposed. It was kind of like, I think I just needed to get it over with and move on with
right
whatever was going on in my head.
Yeah. Damn. Well, congratulate. And how old are you now?
38.
So isn't it kind of mind-blowing to know that only happened 8 years ago?
Yeah. You know what's funny? When I first did the show, I was like so scared to do it, and so like felt like really like I'm opening up this, and it would always drive me crazy because after it was done, to me, I'm like, it's comedy special, but there's depth to it. Yeah. And afterwards, I'm like, I left it all out on the stage, like in my head, and I tried to, but like in your head after you're like, and people would come up, they're just like, so how old are you now? I'm like 31. They're like, so are you fucking now? And I was like, I just told you so much stuff. I was like, I don't want to like be more vulnerable than I just was.
Right. Good Lord.
But yeah, it's been 8 years. It's kind of wild.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Welcome to the real world.
Yeah, dude.
We fuck.
You want to throw Titanic on?
Yeah, I still got to check that off my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had sex, but I've never jerked off in a room full of dudes. You haven't lived.
Yeah.
What I hear until you do that.